Another day, another story. After his defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, the former emperor was placed in a wretched home on a remote island. Napoleon Bonaparte, the French military and political leader, faced a series of dramatic events during his life, including his exile. After a series of military campaigns and political maneuvering, Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, leading to his abdication as Emperor of the French. Welcome to Tarbo Eminent Channel. The victorious Allied powers, including Britain, Prussia, Russia, and Austria, decided to exile him. Napoleon was initially sent to the island of Elba, located off the coast of Italy, in 1814. However, he managed to escape in 1815 and returned to France for what is known as the 100 Days, attempting to regain power. His final defeat at Waterloo led to his second and more permanent exile. This time, the Allies were determined to keep Napoleon far away from Europe. In October 1815, he was exiled to the remote island of Saint Helena in the South Atlantic, where he would spend the remainder of his life. Saint Helena was a small and isolated island, making escape nearly impossible. During his time in exile, Napoleon lived in Longwood House, which was provided by the British government. He faced strict surveillance, and life on the island was challenging. Despite being far from the political stage, Napoleon continued to exert influence through his memoirs and correspondence. Napoleon's death occurred on May 5, 1821, at the age of 51. The official cause of death was listed as stomach cancer, but there has been ongoing speculation and controversy surrounding the circumstances of his demise. Some theories suggest that he was poisoned with arsenic, while others propose different causes. The debate over Napoleon's death has persisted for years, with historians and scientists examining various pieces of evidence. In 2001, the French government requested samples of Napoleon's hair to conduct tests for poison exposure. The results were inconclusive, and the mystery surrounding his death remains a topic of historical intrigue. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his demise, Napoleon Bonaparte's legacy continues to be a subject of fascination and study, shaping the course of European history and military strategy. The facts about Napoleon Bonaparte's life, his awesome military achievements against the United Powers of Europe, his sweeping reforms of law and bureaucracy across an entire continent, are extraordinary. But Napoleon Bonaparte's final years were just as extraordinary, with humiliating exile, a mysterious death at age 51, and a bizarre post-mortem chain of events. After Napoleon was finally defeated at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, he abdicated his throne and surrendered to the British. Rather than execute him and potentially turn him into a martyr, the British placed him in exile on one of the most isolated places on Earth, the British-held island of Saint Helena in the South Atlantic Ocean. Napoleon's exile on Saint Helena was marked by a combination of isolation, deteriorating health, and a sense of frustration at being so far removed from the world stage. Longwood House, the residence provided to him, was damp, cold, and poorly maintained, contributing to the decline in his health. Napoleon spent his time on Saint Helena writing his memoirs and reflecting on his life and achievements. He corresponded with friends, supporters, and family, and his letters provided insights into his thoughts and emotions during this period of exile. Despite his confinement, he continued to engage intellectually and politically. Napoleon's relationship with the British governor of the island, Sir Hudson Lowe, was contentious. Lowe implemented strict security measures, contributing to Napoleon's sense of confinement and frustration. The two men often clashed over issues such as the conditions of Napoleon's captivity, access to books, and the treatment of his staff. As Napoleon's health deteriorated, rumors and speculations about the cause of his illness began to circulate. Some suspected foul play, suggesting that he had been poisoned, while others attributed his declining health to the harsh conditions of his exile. The official cause of death, stomach cancer, was declared after his autopsy. The controversy surrounding Napoleon's death continued long after his passing. Some believed that he had been poisoned with arsenic, while others argued that the autopsy results were consistent with stomach cancer. The debate fueled conspiracy theories and added to the mystique surrounding the end of Napoleon's life. In the years that followed, interest in Napoleon's exile and death persisted. His body was eventually returned to France in 1840, and he was buried with full military honors at Les Invalides in Paris. Despite the passage of time, the questions surrounding his death remain a topic of historical inquiry and fascination, with researchers and historians continuing to explore the mysteries of Napoleon's final days on Saint Helena. Napoleon's life on Saint Helena was not only marked by political isolation but also by a complex web of personal relationships and the challenges of maintaining his legacy from afar. Despite being thousands of miles away from the European continent, Napoleon managed to maintain a circle of loyal followers who remained dedicated to his cause. One notable figure in Napoleon's exile was his loyal companion and secretary, Count Emmanuel de Las Cases. Las Cases accompanied Napoleon to Saint Helena and played a crucial role in documenting the daily life of the exiled emperor. His journal, Memorial de Saint Helena, provided a detailed account of Napoleon's thoughts, conversations, and reflections during his time on the island. Napoleon's health continued to decline, and his final months were marked by physical suffering. Despite the challenges, he maintained his intellectual vigor and continued dictating his memoirs and discussing a wide range of topics, including military strategy, politics, and history. The island of Saint Helena became a sort of pilgrimage site for admirers and curious onlookers, with ships passing by hoping to catch a glimpse of the fallen emperor. The British authorities, aware of the symbolic importance of Napoleon, maintained strict control over access to the island, allowing only limited communication with the outside world. In addition to his interactions with Las Cases, Napoleon had occasional meetings with other individuals, including British officers and physicians. These encounters often provided insight into his state of mind and the challenges he faced in his isolated existence. The death of Napoleon in 1821 marked the end of an era, but it did not bring an end to the fascination with his life and legacy. The controversy surrounding his death, fueled by conspiracy theories and suspicions of foul play, persisted for decades. As time passed, historical analyses and scientific investigations attempted to shed light on the true cause of Napoleon's demise. The legacy of Napoleon Bonaparte continued to reverberate throughout history, influencing political and military thought. His exile on Saint Helena, while a period of isolation and hardship, did not diminish the enduring impact he had on the world. The story of Napoleon's life and mysterious death in exile remains a captivating chapter in the annals of history, continuing to captivate the imagination of scholars and enthusiasts alike. Exile on Saint Helena Island. A tiny island measuring only about 10 by 5 miles, its jagged cliffs must have seemed a grim sight when the former emperor first laid eyes on it. After initially enjoying 2 pleasant months living at the home of a former friend William Balcombe, Napoleon was then moved to nearby Longwood House, a property that had fallen into disrepair, and which was particularly damp and riddled with mold. His servants were said to have complained of colds, catarrhs, damp floors and poor provisions. One of the entourage of 28 people who accompanied Napoleon was the Comte de Las Cases, who described Longwood House as a wretched hovel, a few feet square. The island also appears to have been infested with rats, a feature that political satirists from all over Europe took as an opportunity to poke fun at the vanquished former emperor. A German political cartoon from the period mocked his situation, with a battalion of rats serving him instead of courtiers. A French cartoon showed the former emperor sleeping in a tent while rats on the shore plot a rebellion. The caption read, "Not even the rats want him." It would only get worse. The new British governor of the island, Hudson Lowe, was determined that Napoleon would not escape from this exile as he had done from his first one in Elba, and so restricted his movement, monitoring his correspondence, and ordering that Napoleon be seen in the flesh by British officers several times a day. This led to the ex-emperor going into a bizarre form of rebellion, closing the shutters of the house and carving tiny peepholes into them so that he could look out without being seen. He also designed sunken pathways in the garden to make it harder for the officers to spot him. And despite Lowe's orders that gifts were not permitted if they made mention of Napoleon's imperial status, the former emperor continued to preserve royal protocol, with men in military dress and women in bejeweled gowns. He also took up a few pastimes. He dictated his memoirs, wrote a book on Julius Caesar, studied English, and played cards. In fact, he played cards so much that a range of versions of solitaire, the card game also known as patience, have been named after him. Eventually, the living conditions, and especially his lack of exercise, began to take their toll, and Napoleon's health began to decline precipitously. He suffered from abdominal pain, constipation, vomiting, and overall weakness. By February 1821, about 4 years after his arrival on Saint Helena, Napoleon knew his end was nigh. He reconciled with the Catholic Church after a most tumultuous relationship, which had included at one point kidnapping the Pope, and made his confession and took the final sacraments. On May 5, 1821 he passed away at age 51. What killed Napoleon Bonaparte? Shortly after Napoleon died, an autopsy was carried out by his physician Francesco Antomarche. During this procedure, his heart and intestines were removed and put into sealed vessels, a standard treatment for the bodies of monarchs. However, Antomarche also cut off Napoleon's penis, no one knows why. It was then smuggled out of the island by his chaplain and would end up being bought and sold over the years by various parties, eventually ending up on display in 1927 at New York City's Museum of French Art, where Time magazine compared it to a maltreated strip of buckskin shoelace. An inglorious end for one who had in a matter of years managed to conquer almost all of Europe. So what killed Old Boney, as the English like to call him? That has been the matter of historical debate and medical science for the last 200 years. Antomarche said it was stomach cancer. In 1961, a Swedish amateur toxicologist claimed that Napoleon had in fact been poisoned with arsenic and pointed the finger at one of his French entourage. Other researchers have pointed out that, in that era, arsenic was found in a range of materials in daily use and people were constantly exposed to it. Yet others have claimed it was either a peptic ulcer or gastric cancer. Whatever the true cause, fascination with this extraordinary historical figure shows no sign of waning. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.